Afternoon. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I want to do a quick video kind of going over the potential snow coming Sunday night into Monday. I mentioned in my forecast last night that I just felt like there were still a lot of questions about it. There are questions about the dynamics, about the timing, about the track. There seemed to be a lot of certainty being put out, and I just didn't feel like I was right. So I'm going to show you where things stand as of the latest data runs, and just to give you an idea that that uncertainty is in fact still there and is maybe getting worse. So we'll start off with the GFS. This is Sunday morning, and I'm starting at Sunday morning just because there's this little bit of a tail end of a system that'll go off to the north that might bring us a little bit of mix or some light showers in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday morning. It won't be anything of any significance. Then most of Sunday is probably going to be dry. That's about the only thing most of the data agrees on. But then you can see our system coming from the west here on the GFS, and watch what the GFS is doing with this. It's weaker, it's kind of disorganized, and it runs it, basically I-70 and south, and never brings any snow up here to Madison County at all. So then we go to the European. The European has this kind of weak low pressure down here. This is in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday, but it never really gives much, and it does not have this tail of snow. It's got it a lot farther to the east and to the north, and doesn't bring us any sort of precipitation until we get into the pre-dawn hours of Monday. But then you can see it bringing the system through, and it basically brings it right through the I-70 corridor, both north and south, and picking up some snow. And then here we are by late morning on Monday, and then early afternoon on Monday, it begins to mix it as this moves away and warmer air begins to pump into the area. And so that's kind of what the European does with this. So here's the high resolution Canadian, and it kind of splits the difference between the GFS and the Euro. It does have this kind of mix of precipitation in the wee hours of Sunday morning, moves it on out, and then most of Sunday dry. And then here we come by this is 1 a.m. on Monday morning, and you can see it brings some snow in. It's got the heavier band of snow back here into central Illinois, and then it cuts it off kind of sharp up here with the heaviest snow running right along and just south of I-70, really kind of more along the I-74 corridor. It's got a little more of a northwest to southeast angle, and then it moves it out again by early Monday afternoon. Then I showed you what the Canadian high resolution did. Check out what the NAM is doing. You see all these other uh, models have a storm system. Look at what the NAM is doing. It kind of combines it all with the nose out here in the pre-dawn hours of Monday morning, and then it just chokes it off really fast. And so it's just got a quick, narrow finger running right along I-70, and then it just totally squashes this, gets rid of, and then there's rain down in southern Indiana, and it's got almost nothing in the way of snow. So you can see there's just so much difference in all this different data. One last one, and this is the UK Met, and the UK Met and the German Icon both kind of do follow the kind of the lead of what the NAM is doing, and you see they bring the snow in, and then by right around daybreak Monday morning, it just begins to kill it all off. So as we get closer to the event, the data that's pointing to an impactful snow event is actually getting less, and the data that's pointing away from that is getting more. And this is kind of my concern with putting too much emphasis on this snow event. So I want you to know that it's still possible. And a lot can change because we've got this major battle between warm and cold going on. And so as they butt heads, where this path sets up can shift north or south rather easily. And how also how they set up and how this boundary set up can affect the intensity of the storm system, which would then impact the cold air and the amount of snow. I mean, there are just so many things that are just, this is not a good setup to really be saying anything with any certainty. So going all the way back to the beginning, here's what the GFS does with the snow. It gives us basically no snow here in Madison County. And even down in southern Indiana, it's anywhere from a dusting to maybe 2 inches, with the heavier snow staying back in Missouri. Here's what the 6Z European did. The 12Z hasn't started spitting out yet, so we'll see if that shifts any. And of course, as I always tell you, the changes in model data or is the change in the model's understanding of the system. It's not changes in the system. So people say, oh, the storm moved north, the storm moved south. No, the storm didn't move anywhere. The model's understanding of the storm is what moved. So here's what the European does. It puts down a 2 to 3 inch swath through basically I-70 and north, into north central Indiana before it kills the system off into Ohio, because it starts to get warmer by the time it gets that far to the east. The only other snow output I'll show you at this point is the Canadian, high resolution Canadian. And again, it gives it like a dusting of snow up here with a 1 to maybe 3 inch band going just south of I-70. So you can see the data is kind of all over the place on this. Like I said, the NAM model is going to have nothing. The Icon, UK Met, they all have basically nothing. So we'll keep that in mind. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll update you as we get into tomorrow and see what the system actually looks like once we're actually watching the storm itself, and we can see on satellite, see what the how the track is really setting up. Looking farther down the road, again, this is just model data. Don't take this verbatim, but I think it's got the pattern basically right. You can see the dip right here around this storm system, then an immediate rebound. This is the GEFS. It pushes us up close to 70 degrees by Friday, in the mid to upper 60s from next Friday through next Monday, before a somewhat cool front brings us back to the 50s. I do think we need to watch this somewhere in this March 11th to 13th time frame. That front might actually be stronger than the GEFS is seeing, and we may be watching for a severe threat ahead of another cold front. But that's what the GEFS has. And then here is the EPS, the Canadian ensembles, and it does something very similar. Not quite as warm as what the GEFS is, but still a good run of 60s starting late next week, maybe close to 70 by early the following week, before we get to this cold front somewhere around, again, the March 11th to 13th time frame. I think we're going to have to be watching for possible severe. There's a lot of talk about polar vortex split. As we're looking at the wind map on that, this is at the 10 millibar level. You can see this is really stretched out. You can kind of see the nudge beginning to happen on both sides, but especially from the Asian side. At the 10 millibar level, I mean, this is far northeastern Greenland. The United States is way down here off the bottom of the screen. So that's kind of what it looks like at the 10 millibar. If we take a look and drop down to the 70 millibar, then I can see that it's a little farther to the west than what the 10 millibar is, but it's still way up here in far northern Canada, and then a lobe over northern Asia. And so as we spin this down and take a look, um, we might see kind of a northwest flow develop. We're kind of already going to have that a little bit, but so we'll keep an eye on mid to maybe the second to mid March to the third week of March. See if we get another somewhat cold shot. I don't think we've got any real wintry. Like I don't think we're going to see any more highs in the 20s. I could be wrong. We've seen it happen a lot later than this, but at least in the foreseeable future, I don't think this uh, polar vortex disruption is going to cause us to have any real barbaric outbreaks of cold. But we will have a colder stretch. And again, March, because of the battleground, a lot of times is when we tend to see either an ice storm or a significant snowstorm, but a lot of times those significant snowstorms come in sketchy conditions like what we're going to see Monday, where the temperatures are kind of marginal. And sometimes we'll get a big snow and it'll be 34 or 35 degrees out when it starts, but yeah, it's just a lot of heavy, wet snow. So we'll see what happens as we get farther into March. Yeah, but again, I think March is going to be up and down, but warm is starting to win more than cold. But cold isn't just going to go away. So we'll keep an eye as we get farther into March. But at this point, I'm not seeing any major cold outbreak later in March, but we will have a period where we go back to colder than average. And again, I think somewhere in the 11th to 13th time frame, we're going to have to watch for some severe potential. So that's all down the road. We'll see how that goes. We can't right now. We've got no idea just on this storm system that's 72 less than 72 hours away. So let alone talking too far down the road. But this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. As always, if you support the page, if you're a sponsor of this page, thank you so much. And if you don't, but you can, please support the page. Help me keep this thing going. And I will update you on this system probably tomorrow and let you know how things are actually looking once we're watching the storm system itself.